Unfortunately, there are times in life when we might feel abandoned, invisible, sitting in the shadows, and feel as if God has forgotten we existed. This true story of a stranded traveler who thought all hope was lost, and then realized God heard their prayer and chose them out of a mass of people because they stepped out in faith. Brought to you by God Quotes. Step out in faith and hit that like button for us. And we sure would appreciate you hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on a new video. A wonderful 10-day vacation was coming to an end for a traveler visiting their parents in South Africa. Upon arriving at the airport, they were greeted by airline staff that was on strike. The outcome was no flights were coming or going from the airport. At the beginning, this did not cause much concern, because they had planned 3 extra days before needing to return to work and other responsibilities once they returned home. So they thought this will get resolved in a few days. However, it did not, as the strike carried on for weeks. Dismay set in, for they needed to return to work. Their spouse and kids were waiting for them, and they were not prepared financially for the extra weeks spent on vacation. They prayed daily and began to beg God to help end the strike. Daily they called the airline, and there was no change in the situation. One morning, after 2 long weeks and their daily phone call to the airline, they were told a few flights were leaving. However, there was such an accumulation of passengers that needed to get a flight that at this time it would be difficult, if not impossible, to get on a plane, and that it could be weeks longer before they would be able to get a flight. Nevertheless, they needed to get home to avoid losing their job and more money. So they presented their problem to God once more, and in pure faith took action on their request to Him. Getting into the car with their parents for a long 2-hour drive to the airport, not knowing what the outcome would be once they arrived, planning to just sleep on the floor of the airport with the hopes to get a flight out. Upon arriving, they felt as if all hope was lost. The sight of the crowd and sheer mass of people was overwhelming. "We should just turn around now," said their mom. Their dad, however, an old-timer and true believer in the power of God and the marvelous work He can do in the most dire of situations, spoke up and said, "I think we should just step out in faith and see what happens." They had to park miles away from the airport and struggled to get through the sea of people to reach the overcrowded terminal. There were people everywhere, sleeping, standing, camping out, and not a single line was moving an inch. Having no idea where to begin, they just stood in a depressed daze in the sea of people with their suitcase. Then God intervened, as He always does when we have prayed to Him and given it up to Him in complete faith. Suddenly, someone reached out and touched their arm and said, "Where are you going?" Shocked, they turned to look who it was and were astonished to see the name tag of one of the airport staff. "New York," they said. The staff member, picking up their suitcase, said, "Follow me." As the two made their way through the crowded terminal, the staff member escorted them all the way to the front of one of the endless lines. There they waited with them and got them checked in on a flight, the one and only seat left on the only flight bound for New York that day. The staff member said, "Have a safe trip home," and just as soon as they had appeared, they disappeared back into the sea of people. Upon returning to their parents to say goodbye, who were standing in awe at what they had just witnessed, tears running down both their faces, their dad hugged them and said, "When we step out in faith and make our request known to God the Father, He will answer. However, we must act on our faith for the answer to come. We cannot doubt God. We need to be willing to step out in faith." Why was this one traveler chosen out of a crowd of people? We may never really know why. However, we can take the message God is sending us right now with this story. Step out in faith, my child, and I will not abandon you. He alone can work out the most challenging of times we might face in life. We must trust God and His Word to make our way in life. To substantially progress, we must pick up our troubles and trust with full faith He is there and will do what He promised. We lose blessings when we think our situation is hopeless. Step out in faith, and remember, it's not hopeless when you truly believe in the power of God. Step out in faith and share your comments below. To watch more videos, click here. or here. And to subscribe, click here. May God bless you always.